Hey, Professor, what's going on? This is it. This is my final project, week 8. And the question is, does the United States constitutional system still effectively balance power and protect the liberty in modern America? I think yes. I think yes. And I put here, while America faces a lot of political division, expanding the government and new challenges, the Constitution does continue to provide the strongest system for protecting individual liberties and limiting the government power. The founding fathers intentionally created a government with separated powers, federalism, and checks and balances to prevent tyranny. And although some parts of government have grown beyond what the framers originally had intended, the Constitution itself still provides the framework needed to preserve freedom when it is faithfully followed. And honestly, throughout this presentation, I will be explaining how these principles continue to work today and why they remain essential to protecting the rights of the American people. So let's go with federalism. First, I'm going to kind of define what federalism is. Going to be explaining the 10th Amendment and explain why the states, the rights of every state is important, or the state's rights are important. And then I will give you an example. Let me back up here. I feel like I'm pretty close. All right, so federalism, if you didn't know, let's say you're some random person who I just met, and I'm going to tell you what federalism is. So federalism is the sharing of power between the national government and the state government. And the Constitution gives certain powers to the federal government while reserving all remaining powers to the states and the people through the 10th Amendment. And the system is one of the Constitution's greatest strengths because it keeps government closer to the people. And different states have different populations, economies, and also values. So they have the flexibility to create policies that best fit their citizens instead of relying on the one national solution that follows everybody. But so, for example, states continue to make their own decisions on issues such as education standards, election procedures, firearm regulations, and tax policies. Obviously, in my personal opinion, I will say about firearms, I think everybody should have a firearm. I'm obviously I'm not going to say everybody because there's illegals and there's other people out there that can't be trusted. But I think that having a firearm, like I am for guns, period. I will not argue that, oh, take away your guns. No. I think if it comes down to life or death, a knife versus a firearm, there's no question about it. To where if somebody breaks in my house, if somebody were to break into my house, I'm defending my property and my land. And if it comes to it, then I'm putting the pedal on the metal and I am just going to let it loose. But I have to make sure that it's the right time. If I get attacked, it's all a different story. But I am all for firearms. Absolutely. 150%. So, but the states continue to make their own decisions on issues such as, again, the education standards, procedures, and firearm regulations. But these differences demonstrate that federalism is still functioning today, and it helps protect the liberty by preventing too much power from being concentrated in Washington. That is something that I got from the 10th Amendment and the textbook. So next I'll get into the three branches of government. I'm going to be talking about the three branches and why separation of power matters. So I will say that the Constitution divides power among three branches of government because the founders believed that concentrating power is one person or one branch would threaten liberty. So yeah. So Congress is responsible for making the laws. The president is responsible for enforcing these laws, and the judicial branch is responsible for interpreting the laws and determining whether they are constitutional or non-constitutional. So, and it goes if you didn't know, the legislative makes the laws, the executive branch is the president, and they enforce the laws. So, if you didn't know. So this separation of powers intentionally slows government down. Although many people become frustrated when Congress cannot quickly pass legislation, that difficulty is actually part of the Constitution's design. The framers wanted. All right. So again, the framers wanted to carefully debate and compromise rather than allowing one political party or leader to make a major decision without overstepping any limits or overstepping any boundaries. So, yeah. So that just gives you a good idea. If again you were somebody that I didn't know, knew nothing about this great country and everything that happened before our time, just letting you know a little bit about the three branches of the government. But I'm going to move on to the federal bureaucracy. I'm going to explain what bureaucracy is and why it exists, the benefits, and then some concerns about its size, possibly. So, the federal bureaucracy. Sorry, it's pretty late at night. It's been a long day, but the federal bureaucracy consists of executive departments and agencies that carry out laws passed by Congress, and these agencies provide expertise in areas such as like public health, environmental protection, transportation, and our national security. So these are necessary because the federal government has a lot of responsibilities. However, one concern that I wrote down here is that the bureaucracy has grown significantly over time, and many agencies now create regulations that have a major impact on businesses and citizens, even though the people leading those agencies are not directly elected. But I personally believe that Congress should play a stronger role in writing clear laws while ensuring that federal agencies remain accountable to elected officials and the Constitution. So that's just kind of my perspective on it. But as I explained in my introduction, or when I first started this video, I kind of mentioned like checks and balances. Pretty sure. I don't know if I typed that up. But with checks and balances, I'm going to tell you what it is, give an example or two, and then explain whether it still works today. So checks and balances are one of the Constitution's most important protections against government abuse. And again, Congress writes the laws, but the president can veto the legislation. Congress can override the presidential vetoes with enough votes. The Supreme Court can strike down laws or executive actions that violate the Constitution. The Senate confirms judges and executive appointments, while Congress also has the power to impeach federal officials when necessary. Just like the whole thing with they were going to impeach, they should have impeached Biden, but tough. But they were thinking about it, just all this stuff. But yeah, so although political disagreements sometimes slow the process, these constitutional safeguards continue to prevent any one branch from becoming way too powerful than the others. But some real world examples. So I'll go with a recent example, actually, of checks and balances occurred actually in 2023 when the Supreme Court ruled that the Biden administration did not have clear authority under existing law to broadly cancel hundreds of billions of dollars in federal student loan debt. Whether someone supported or opposed student loan forgiveness is separate from the constitutional issue. The court concluded that such a major policy decision required authorization from Congress rather than executive action alone. This case highly demonstrates that the judicial branch continues to check the executive branch and reinforce the constitutional principle that Congress is responsible for making major laws involving federal spending. So the citizen influence on our the influence from the people. The Constitution gives citizens many opportunities to influence the government. Americans, like you and I, participate by voting, contacting elected officials, serving on juries, like with jury duty, joining interest groups, attending public meetings, and participating in peaceful demonstrations. Not going to say riots, but we're going to say peaceful demonstrations. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech, religion, the press, assembly, and the right to petition the government. And these freedoms allow citizens to openly criticize government leaders, and advocate for change without fear of punishment. This level of freedom remains one of America's greatest constitutional strengths. Just like if for some reason I didn't like Trump anymore, I could be like, you know what, Trump, you suck, blah, 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 blah. And that's fine, because I'm able to say things freely. That's why I think a lot of people in the world nowadays, they don't understand that all of these laws go for everybody. The left thinks, oh, these laws don't abide by me. I'm just going to go out here and, threaten this person because I'm trans and I have they, them pronouns. No, you physically cannot do that. If you do that, you're going to jail. There's going to be consequences. That's why I think the world, it's getting very sick in the head, because there's the right and there's the left. And I think at this point, kind of where I stand. The left is, they just don't know what's going on. And it's starting with the kids. The kids, they're just not, they're not getting it. They're seeing all this crap online, and they're just going above and beyond, talking about they're this, they were born with this, but they want to trade to this. To me, it's sick. I'm 24 and I work at a camp with kids, and it's like I've seen this, and I can't really say anything to the kids, but I can just think it. It's like, what are you doing? You were born with this. Cherish that. Like if you're born a boy, grow up to be a hardcore man. I'm not saying choose. I'm not saying if you're this side, you suck. I'm not doing that at all. I personally don't judge. I don't. But if you're born a boy, you're going to grow up and you're going to be the best man possible. That's what my opinion, every American man would want to do. And it goes the same thing for a woman. If you're born a girl, you're going to grow up to be a very successful woman, take care of a family, having kids, etc. So that's just kind of where I stand on it from everything like that. But now, just like I explained before, is there really a branch that holds too much power? And if I had to identify one part of government that has become more powerful than the framers originally intended, I would say the executive branch, along with the federal bureaucracy. But over time, presidents from both political parties, not just the right, but both the right and the left, have increasingly relied on executive orders and administrative agencies when Congress has been unable to pass legislation. So while these actions may sometimes be legal, they can reduce Congress's role as the nation's primary lawmaking body. But fortunately, the Constitution still provides safeguards. Congress can pass legislation, control funding, and conduct oversight, while the courts can declare executive actions unconstitutional when they exceed presidential authority. So that's kind of my idea on the whole thing. In conclusion to everything, I know I really don't want to make a super long video like I did last time, so I'm just going to say, in conclusion to everything, I believe that the United States constitutional system is still effective in balancing power and protecting the liberty of the people. Federalism still allows people to govern according to the needs of their citizens while limiting the concentration of power in the national government. The separation of powers and checks and balances continue to prevent any one branch from dominating another. Although the federal government has grown significantly since the Constitution was written, the Constitution itself remains the best framework for preserving freedom. Rather than replacing our constitutional system, I believe the USA, United States of America, should continue in strengthening it by respecting the Constitution, protecting individual rights, promoting civic participation, and ensuring that the government remains limited and accountable to the people. For the sources, American National Government 3E by OpenStax, use the United States Constitution, National Archives, the Supreme Court of the United States, and I specifically used Biden v. Nebraska, Articles 1 through 3 and Amendments 1 through 10, and the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, understanding the federal courts. So yeah, that's my viewpoint on it. I want to say that I thought that you were a badass professor. I loved this course. Obviously, you clearly know where I stand right now. I should just put an American flag outside on my porch. You know, I love this country. I love waking up every day knowing that I live in the greatest country in the world. Sure, there could be some things changed, and sure, people come in here illegally, and there's a lot of dumb stuff going on in the world. But all I know is that I'm blessed to wake up a man and an American-made man, or if I was a woman, you know, if I was born a woman, you know, I'd be blessed to wake up either or. I'd be blessed to wake up and just know that I live in the greatest country in the world, and I'm able to learn everything by you and from you, and just learning everything, being able to dive deep, being able to listen to Fox News and like read the stuff and dive deep into it. So I appreciate you teaching me and you just giving me a better understanding of this great American life and this American society, you know, the whole nation. So I thank you for such an amazing course. I had so much fun. It was awesome. And, you know, you're in Phoenix. You're 3 hours behind. I mean, it's currently 9:51, almost 21:51. You know, I'm very big on the 24-hour clock. I'm not deployed. Haven't been deployed. Haven't been in the government, or haven't been in the Marines or anything like that. But, you know, I do back the blue. I enjoy seeing somebody in uniform. I know you had said, I think you had mentioned that you were a police officer. I think it was a police officer you said. But I do back the boys in blue. I love our country. I love our government. I want to say thank you again for everything. I hope all is well with you and your family. If you have one, I'm not saying you don't or whatever, but I hope everything goes well in your life and in the future with this class. Again, you were a badass professor, and you take it easy. God bless America. Thank you very much.